beware. Your Kamala mania party is about to get crashed. Right now, Vice President Harris is riding a wave of fawning media coverage and favorable polls as the press helps sugarcoat her radical and dangerously liberal track record. But Barack Obama's former advisor, David Axelrod, has some bad news for Democrats who think that this Harris honeymoon will last forever.
You know, there's a lot of irrational exuberance on the side of, on the Democratic side of the aisle right now because there was despair for some period of time about what November was going to look like. Now people feel like there's a chance. But it is absolutely Trump's race to lose right now. He is ahead, and he is ahead in most of the battleground states. Everybody should be sober about that on the Democratic side.
And you can expect Kamala mania to fade as more Americans realize what a disaster she is on the issues. Harris has been flip-flopping like crazy on her support of far-left policies like abolishing ICE, banning fracking, and eliminating private insurance. And it's leading Democrats to come up with some ridiculous excuses.
What do you think that voters should think when she's reversed herself on several issues just in the last 4 years?
I think that voters should think that she's a human being who learns new things every single day.
So no concern about flip-flopping?
No concern about flip-flopping. This is our country changes every single day. The conditions of our country changes every single day. The vice president has been consistent in her values, and there are lots of different ways to solve the challenges that are in front of us.
Would you still go to your job if Amazon sent you a paycheck every 2 weeks? Because there's a little loophole on Amazon right now.
All right, Jesse, should we attribute Kamala's flip-flopping to A, political opportunism, B, her effort to become a Republican, or C, her just being a human being and learning about life?
D, all of the above. I had a little irrational exuberance last week when Greg was gone. Anybody but Greg was sitting in that chair, and it was fantastic. Same thing with Biden. It's anybody but Biden, and the Dems are excited. This Democrat machine, I am in awe of. They can take a woman who was probably less popular than Dick Cheney, and now she's the pantsuit messiah. This is someone they tried to rip off the ticket a year ago, and now she's a cultural phenomenon. I bet if I switched parties and registered as a Democrat, identified as African American,
Hear, hear.
and tapped Harold Ford Jr. as vice president, and just said all the things I've been saying on the five, I'm a human being, and I've listened and I've learned, I might probably do well against Trump in the battlegrounds. That's how powerful this machine is. I know Harold Ford Jr. likes to give people the benefit of the doubt, so let's just give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say she did listen and she learned because she's a human being. Well, she stopped listening and learning after she got into the White House because we've been telling her to close the border. We've been telling her to stop spending money. We've been telling her to stop putting boys in girls' locker rooms. She hasn't listened at all. She hasn't learned from any of that. And not only do you have to listen to be a leader, you have to lead. When has Kamala Harris led anything? Donald Trump led on tariffs, border, China, NATO. And you can look at his website right now. He has a vision for what he wants to do. You go to Kamala Harris's website right now. She doesn't even have a policy proposal if she gets elected.
So, Harold, why is Kamala relying on surrogates to get her message out?
Good to be around the table. Hope you had a good weekend. I'd say a couple of things. I like the pantsuit messiah thing. That was good.
Thank you.
I'd say a couple of things about what she's doing. And some of it I've said in the past, and I think it applies to both candidates. Laying out a vision for the future is how you win a presidential race, how you win big political races, gubernatorial races, if you're in one of the big states, for that matter, any state Senate races, but certainly when you're running for president. George Wallace was a Democrat, was a Alabama governor who was a segregationist. He campaigned in 1968 on basically codifying that I couldn't marry my wife because she's white. He said he didn't believe that blacks and whites should be able to get married. He believed that blacks had a certain place in society. Before he died, you know who hugged him? Jesse Jackson hugged him. Andy Young hugged him. He made a change. I think when people make changes, the question you're really getting at, Jesse, and I take you seriously when you talk about these things, she's got to prove that she's not just ambitious. She's got to prove that she's authentic. I think people can change. You got to give people space to change, because that's the only way South Africa turned out the way it turned, and Mandela became president, because people changed. I hope people in the Middle East can change. The jury is still out on a lot of those issues. But in our political system, people jump from being Democrat to Republican just as President Trump did, and I think many people believe he is more Republican than he is Democrat if he's not an altogether a Republican. But I don't dismiss your point lightly.
Yeah, but
So
George Wallace didn't change his opinion on everything when he was running for president the next time. It was like on his deathbed.
Thank God. No, it was before he died.
Yeah, right. So Kamala Harris is not on her deathbed.
Well, I'm a Christian. I give people an option. I wish he had changed sooner. Maybe he was changing sooner. And when he died, the question is, do you believe in those things? Did he believe in a greater America? Your bigger point is this. She, in a debate, is going to have to explain what accounts for these changes. J.D. Vance will have to answer in his debate what accounts for your changes. And if they're authentic, if they're believable, if they're credible, then American people will believe them.
But the question is, why is she relying on surrogates? Why isn't she doing it herself?
But I think she's been out there, and she will continue to be out there. Look, I think
she hasn't done a presser in 15 days.
She should. I agree with you. She should.
Okay.
I agree. Forgive me. You're absolutely right. She should.
Thank you. Okay, Katie. How is it that Trump's lead has pretty much been diminished, and how do Republicans come back from this mania?
Well, first, Kamala Harris, people do change. They change their positions, but she's using these surrogates and these anonymous sources for her campaign through the media, who is happy to accommodate, by the way, to say that the position has changed but not explain why it has changed. And these aren't just changes from, like a little tiny, minuscule operation or change. It's massive 180 changes that we're talking about here, from banning fracking, banning electric or oil-powered cars, really big swings. They're not just a little tinkering around the edges when it comes to these issues, and she's not explaining any of it herself. So that's one thing. The other thing, to your question about how Trump's lead has essentially not evaporated, but certainly gotten smaller. There's no doubt that Democrats have reset this race. That was their goal. They want to win. They want to beat Donald Trump. And President Donald Trump has to define Kamala Harris. He cannot allow her to define herself based on changes she's reporting anonymously through the press and that don't actually reflect her record. Now, a lot of their ads have been doing that, but he can't get distracted by attacking Republicans in Georgia, for example. He should only be talking about the economy, Kamala Harris, and her record, which she is not speaking for himself. That's something they have to. He was very disciplined leading up to the convention. He should go back to that place.
All right, Greg, welcome back.
Thank you.
Did things surprise you when you got back? Anything in particular?
No, nothing really surprised me. Jesse's still here.
I'm surprised, too.
I know. It's amazing. I kept saying today's going to be the day he crosses the line. You know what? I think we're making a mistake when we're talking about changing opinions. You don't change when you change your clothes, you don't change your opinion. And for some people, it's no different than changing your clothes. Kamala Harris is an amorphous creature that conforms to whatever environment that best suits her. So in 1 minute she could say, I'm going to bail out protesters, and the next minute she could say she's a prosecutor. She didn't have beliefs to begin with. So the idea that we're sitting here talking about, well, she changed her belief here, she realized, no, to her, those aren't even part of her life. It's just, that's why she's laughing all the time. Because she's like, none of this stuff matters. Look, remember what she said about Joe Biden? When she said that I was the little girl in the bus, and then people said, why did you say that? She goes, it's a debate. So none of these positions that she takes are actually meaningful. She has no beliefs. She doesn't need any beliefs. She is no different than Joe Biden, selected to be slotted into this machine and do exactly what they're supposed to do to maintain the status quo. That's all it is. It's amazing that a month ago, that debate exposed probably the biggest political scandal in modern history, right? They covered up a president's dementia. Then 3 weeks ago, we had probably the biggest security breach in decades, an attempted assassination. And yet, without doing a thing, Kamala is the story. She's done nothing, she's said nothing, yet she is the story. That tells you that the machine is doing all of it. She's just a constant variable. It doesn't matter. She's having fun because she knows everything is taken care of, right? She's like a tourist in the back seat of a Vegas limo with a roadie Long Island iced tea heading to the casino to play with the house chips. Right? But the Republicans, and this is the key point, they have to show up, because the fact is, if you do not confront the Democratic Party with the dementia cover-up and who participated in it, which was her, she's going to get away with it. They were driving full speed into that story, and if the Republicans don't confront them and say she was behind this, because she knew she would get the nomination. She knew she would get the nomination if this happened, if they covered it up. That's the story.
Good to have you back.
Thank you.
This is a Fox News alert. Fox News confirms several U.S. personnel have been injured following a rocket attack today. It was an air base. It was at an air base in Iraq. The Pentagon is doing a damage assessment. We're working to get more information.
Click here.